Hey everybody, John Pollock here alongside Jimmy Korderas coming out of Sunday's WWE Money in the Bank event from St. Louis, Missouri. And my question, Jimmy, was it Money in the Bank for you or was it misery in Missouri?
Not so much misery, but I didn't feel like I cashed in on Sunday night. That's kind of like insincere. I did enjoy the pay-per-view for the most part, but I guess we'll get into the little stuff that irked me.
Yeah, this was a show that I think had many dissenting views towards it, and I think at the end of it, I think there's arguments you can make that of what you enjoyed, what you didn't like. It was a complicated pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. We can start off with the main event, which I thought was fantastic. You had a 30-minute Money in the Bank ladder match. This was the men's version with Baron Corbin winning, and I thought a lot of creative booking, and maybe most importantly, I think it was the performance and outing you needed out of Shinsuke Nakamura that to me had really stalled during this main roster run, and him and AJ Styles to me were the high point of the match.
I totally agree. I thought the taking Shinsuke Nakamura out of the majority of the beginning of the match and keeping him fresh and having that anticipation, because you kind of figured he was going to come back in that Spirit of '76 kind of way, the way Ric Flair did after taking the big bump. I guess it was WrestleMania 22. I'm trying to think, yeah, and we've been waiting for Nakamura to show what Shinsuke Nakamura can do in the ring and be that rock star persona as far as an in-ring performer goes. And I think he showed a lot of that, and a lot of the help goes to AJ Styles because of their familiarity with each other. I think they work well together, and coming out of this match, I am very much anticipating a match between the two on a bigger stage, whether it is a SummerSlam or perhaps even a WrestleMania.
Yeah, I have a hard time imagining they can hold those two off until WrestleMania, given the size of the roster and how hot this interaction was with SummerSlam right around the corner. I could definitely see that being in one of the big matches in Brooklyn in August. But that was tremendous. I think taking Nakamura out was a great choice rather than, as we've said, like beginning the match and Nakamura kind of is just lost in the shuffle, which I think he could have been in a match like that. Instead, it was all built around him. And I think a lot of the audience, by the time he finally did come back, many of them were reserved to the fact he wasn't coming back. This would be some injury angle. So I thought it was a great choice, and they maximized him. I would go so far as to say his best appearance, his best night he's had in the company since the NXT debut with Sami Zayn.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, like, he's had some really good outings and matches against different opponents in NXT. He still hasn't shown that on the main roster. This was his...
felt like a big star here.
Yeah, it was the first glimpse of what we're really probably pretty much in store for.
So maybe Talking Smack was rock bottom, and now the rebuilding has begun.
Yeah, I mean, like, thinking back on the Talking Smack segment, I think, like I said, I don't think it did him any favors. Some people thought he wasn't too bad in it. I just think that keeping his promo stuff limited, keep it to a minimum, accentuate his strengths, and you'll have the rock star you're looking for.
Who else stood out for you in this match? I thought early on, I thought Sami Zayn looked great in this match. Obviously, people are going to remember Styles and Nakamura, but just watching Sami Zayn in this match and what a disconnect it is from the way this guy gets presented. And it made me wonder during this match, if you were to be watching this with someone for the first time and they're captivated by Sami Zayn and then say, well, what's this guy's character like? And then you start to describe, well, he's this neurotic overthinker who's paranoid, and he's largely the butt of the jokes amongst the babyface locker room. Like, what a way to just take the wind out of someone's sails that's watching a Sami Zayn match, and that's how he's used. And I think there's a lot of examples of this where the characters at times, it doesn't do justice to the incredible talented roster you have at the moment that I think is taken for granted at times.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, we get it that in professional wrestling / sports entertainment, character is almost as important as the in-ring performance. But at the same time, when you have someone at the skill level of a Sami Zayn, and you talk about AJ Styles possibly being the best wrestler / sports entertainer on the planet, Sami Zayn is in that conversation. He is so underrated and underappreciated as far as what he can do in the ring. When you have someone of that talent and to kind of diminish that with the character that he has been portrayed as. I mean, in a sense, I do kind of like that neurotic character that you described, but I could, again, and going back to last week's preview, I would have kind of liked to see the Money in the Bank briefcase on him and utilizing that neurotic stuff. And like you said, having mapped out like the entire building and how he's going to cash in and stuff like that, and just driving everybody insane.
Our joke just it picked up steam late in the week. A lot of people were interested in this Sami Zayn idea. He did not win. No. I really felt this was one of the best Money in the Bank ladder matches. I don't know if the best, but I think it's right up there in terms of how it was laid out and structured, what it did for Nakamura, some of the creativity throughout it. They didn't do anything that made you just like wince and fear for the safety, though there were some of those. Yeah. I mean, the Owens getting dumped off the top onto that ladder, that didn't look like a pretty fall. No. But overall, I just thought this was an outstanding match. We haven't even talked about the finish, though. If you want to design a really big heel spot, Baron Corbin knocking AJ and Nakamura off the ladder is about as big as you're going to get, and then Corbin grabbing the briefcase, which we all picked Baron Corbin, so I can't say that we're stunned by this outcome. Right. And he's probably the one that, of the guys in this match that need it and are not quite at the level of the others, he would be it.
And it doesn't have to be a quick cash-in. It could be something that's prolonged. It could be something that he teases over time, holding it over people's heads, saying, listen, I can cash in anytime I feel like it, and be a heel and say, I just don't feel like it right now. I think it's the right choice at this moment. Of all the people other than Sami Zayn, he's the guy who could benefit most from the briefcase. As far as the match structure, I agree again. I thought it was done very well, especially in a day and age when there's been so many TLC matches, ladder matches, so forth, and the bar has been raised as far as, I hate using the word stunts, but just crazy spots that just to generate a holy you-know-what moment from the crowd, and that's it. I love the fact that now they have kind of diminished that a little bit but are telling great stories now and utilizing the ladders in ways that are creative, inventive, but also not as dangerous as it used to be. Also, it makes you wonder, I think it's got to be a long-term eventual cash-in for Baron Corbin because they are locked in on Jinder Mahal at the moment, and I think it makes you wonder, like, how long does Jinder go with this title? Because there's the argument to be made that he could carry this all the way until WrestleMania, given where they have their sights set on. I think that an obvious choice is John Cena getting that record-setting win over Jinder Mahal, whether it be later this year, even into next year, and then that record-breaking accomplishment is ruined by Baron Corbin. Right, that makes perfect sense, and the only fear is for me is because the way the crowd reacts to John Cena, he has that similar Roman Reigns thing that if Baron Corbin were to cash in on John Cena, it would have that initial babyface pop reaction as opposed to the heel reaction you want from a guy cashing in on someone a la Edge, the
opportunist.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes he has to finish stuff for me.
So it could be a long series of traveling that Baron Corbin is in store for with that briefcase, which all the guys have to take on the road with them. So it's here you go.
But the smart ones utilize the briefcase and use it as kind of like an old school briefcase, like you put your important papers in there and kind of replace your fanny pack with the briefcase.
There's still to be had is that photo of a guy just sitting in the airport with his big colored Money in the Bank briefcase, a la Seth Rollins a few years back, where you just look like such a dork and waiting for your luggage with that Money in the Bank briefcase.
I won't divulge any names, but I remember one time at the beginning of the tour, somebody who was a Money in the Bank briefcase winner asked if we would carry it on the ring truck.
That's smart.
And we kind of, sorry, we got no room. The thing's this big.
See, I would play
the thing's this big.
I would go with the angle to them. Listen, guys, we have our championships that are for television only. Like, they always have two sets of belts, one for the live events and one for television. I'd be saying, listen, guys, we're on national cable here. I can't be going around with a dinged up briefcase. We need to have the nice briefcase here at TV.
Yeah, see, in the truck, it'd get banged up pretty bad.
All right. Well, that was the first ladder match. I guess we can move over. Let's chat about the women's one right now. This has drawn a ton of scrutiny, not so much for the match, but for the finish, in which James Ellsworth started climbing the ladder, and this crowd was just going nuts as he was climbing up, because I think they were anticipating that James Ellsworth was about to die here with the ladder being tipped. Instead, he just started playing with the briefcase, and then there's that realization moment for the audience that sees him taking the briefcase and drops it down, and Carmella wins. And then they had deliberation at ringside, of which you were very confused by. And then at the end, they just ruled it was a fair win.
Okay. Couple of points here. Since you brought up the referees, I will bring that up. Here's the thing that bothers me, and it goes to consistency. At the beginning of the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, they had an issue. Nakamura was taken out, so they were conferring at ringside, the officials. And what did the officials do? They deferred to the senior official, Mike Kanellis, and said, "It's your call. What do you say?" And he says, "Well, we got 5. We'll start the match with 5." And they started the match. There you go. Simple, problem solved. Now, in the first one, you have the officials arguing, and you have a senior official in Charles Robinson there, and nobody's deferring to him. Instead, they're saying it's an argument. To me, that was inconsistent, and I get where they were trying to go with the finish, but that just further made it not good. It made it even less good that the officials were arguing. So as far as the finish itself, I didn't like it in the sense that if this was the second or the third women's Money in the Bank ladder match in history instead of the first ever historical one, I could buy into this finish. But you're setting up this match as a big historical moment, and it was up until that point. But then you took that away by having this finish, and I get where you were going. You're trying to get heat on him and Carmella, the heels win in cheating fashion. But it just wasn't the right time for this finish, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, this was built up to be something significant, and this is very specific to the women's division and what they've been doing. Because for years and years, the women's division was treated as a joke. Despite some of the talents they had in the past, that's what it was to people. So during this whole change you have had over the past 2 years, you're trying to build equity with your audience that we are serious about this women's division. And when you're pushing something as significant, to me, you haven't built enough of that to where you get off with a finish like this when you're teasing people that this is significant. You watched the video package for this. You saw the way that it was positioned on television almost as though that was the main event on this show. I mean, this was pushed harder to me than the men's match was. And to do a finish like that, to me, you kind of lose your goodwill that you had. And you can't tell me that they would have done this with a men's match, for instance, where you give them 13 minutes and an unsatisfying end to it. And my final point I'll make on it is the fact that for future ladder matches, I think this affects it as well. Because now we've established the precedent that you can have a guy run in and grab this briefcase. So if they never do this again, every guy in this match from now until eternity looks like a fool for not getting backup to just be able to run up the ladder for them. I think that people might think that's overthinking a match, but when you have a realistic feel, and now you have an exception to that rule set you've created, it just pokes holes in your own gimmicks, which I would never want to do for a protected gimmick like this ladder match has been.
Right, and for I often play devil's advocate, with like I say, I try to understand why they do certain things. I don't always like what they do, but I try to understand it. The thing with Ellsworth climbing up the ladder, I know people are making comparisons. They say, well, you know what? Maurice used to help Miz, and Lita helps Edge, and all these female seconds to the ring helping their male counterparts win matches and stuff like that. And I get that, and it almost feels like the WWE was trying to do that in this finish and saying, listen, we're making the women, we're trying to present the women as equal, so why not have a man help a woman in a match just like a woman would help a man in the match? But it didn't translate like that, and people didn't see that. Nobody understood that, if that was the direction they were trying to go, if that's what they were trying to convey.
It was also, I mean, had Lita or Maurice ever been the one to grab the briefcase, there would have been similar negativity.
I think so too. See, I don't mind the fact that Ellsworth got involved. I don't mind the fact that he climbed, but like you, I waited for the big bump, and somehow Carmella capitalized on the situation. But to me, like I said, it was not the right time for this finish.
Now, how much of this do you feel? Last week, SmackDown did a terrible number on television. They were down just over 2 million viewers. That was without any kind of sports competition going up against them. Do you feel this was a panic move? Because there was the heavy tease with Shane and Daniel Bryan back on Tuesday that we're going to get this rematch on SmackDown.
I don't know if I would categorize it as panic. I think there's some concern, obviously, in the dip in the ratings. Everybody is talking about how both Raw and SmackDown are suffering in the ratings. But I think this is a ploy, obviously, to try and drive and generate traffic to the television and get ratings up. But by the same token, in my opinion, and I could be wrong on this, others could who actually study the television more than I do could speak to this. The people who are watching the network, the people who are watching the pay-per-views and already subscribing, I think those people are already tuning in.
Yeah.
So you're driving people to TV that are already going to go to your TV. The challenge is to bring other viewers to your television, your more casual fans, to boost your ratings. That's what your goal is, not the ones that are already going to tune in there. So I don't know how this benefits their TV.
I would say if they are going to do this rematch on television, which it feels like they will, I hope they don't just throw it out there this Tuesday. I hope they give it a week, that they can at least promote that for the first time ever, which they love to do those kinds of first-time evers. You at least give them a week to build that up so that people that maybe are not subscribing to the network, the word gets out that you're getting a free Money in the Bank ladder match on television and really push this.
Yep.
And hopefully that's something. It's a quick fix for your numbers, but I can see that move being made.
Right.
And ultimately, do you foresee the same outcome, that Carmella ends up with the briefcase?
Yeah, I absolutely do.
I do too.
That absolutely makes sense. But again, I agree with that. That's a good idea. If you're going to do it again, give it a week, let it marinate for a little bit.
It doesn't have to be this Tuesday.
No.
You've got over a month until their next pay-per-view.
Exactly.
You can give them a week to promote this.
Yeah.
Moving on, we had Jinder Mahal against Randy Orton in St. Louis. I thought this was, if I'm going to be fair to the criticisms of the booking of that match, I'm going to praise the booking of this match because I thought they did a great job of doing the hometown angle and utilizing it. It's amazing when you have a strong guy of what it means in their hometown. And the incorporation of the legends who up until, this was on second from the top, so this wasn't in the main event slot. Up until that point, that was the biggest reaction on the show, was the introduction of those legends. The St. Louis crowd treated them as such. And you got a pretty heated match throughout this, I felt. The Singh brothers played their role very effectively. This was not a match of the year by any stretch, but my God, was it a welcome change from some of the Randy Orton pay-per-view outings we have seen over the last number of months. So I was pleasantly surprised with this match. They went 20 minutes. Didn't drag to me, and this audience seemed interested the entire way.
Yeah, and you got to give props also to Jinder Mahal because he has been improving, he has been getting better, and I think
worked the knee, which it was a very good story that they had.
Exactly, and I think he's starting to get a little bit more comfortable in his role as WWE champion. I think he's starting to embrace it a little bit more. He's starting to even his mannerisms, the way he presents himself. Presentation is very important. Perception is reality. He comes across as a big deal. Randy Orton is a big deal.
Yeah,
there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's the guy is just so damn smooth. You watch him in the ring, he just it takes two to have a good wrestling. The old adage, the guy can wrestle a broomstick and stuff like that. But you know what? The broomstick still has to be able to do some basic stuff too. But I'm not calling Jinder Mahal a broomstick by any stretch. He's very competent. But
let's be honest,
Randy elevated him in this match on Sunday.
Yeah, Jinder Mahal is he is put in that main event mix, and he's going to be compared to that main event mix, and that's a high bar.
Yeah.
This match, from my understanding, we're likely getting another title match out of this. I don't think this feud is over yet. Based on the finish and the outside interference, was that the sense you got by the end of this? Or do you think that this feud has reached its limit?
No, I think you can get one more out of this. I mean, with all the outside interference, with the Singh brothers and interaction with the Legends, which was good. I enjoyed it because it was kept to a minimum. They were there, at ringside just a little bit with of course, on Father's Day.
Yes.
His dad, kind of appropriate, I think. I'm starting to enjoy the Singh brothers. They're getting off on a little tangent here because
I think they had a lot.
I think they had a huge bit and to that presentation of Jinder Mahal as champion. But that whole bit where they were exiting the ring and taking their time and their facial reactions, everything they did was actually really good. And then the interaction with, and of course their bump machines and Randy Orton going back to the
back suplex
on the table,
which everyone just winces from now until the end of time whenever they do this. No, I think it's. They really compliment Jinder well. I think that they were, and that entrance is really starting to get over. I think like he comes out, he has that presence. Like you cannot deny that. I think his promos still have a long way to go, and his in ring, he's certainly improved since he came back last summer. I don't think you can deny that. But it's a high level. It's not as though he's just being put into a mid card role. He's being put into the role on SmackDown. So I think that the scrutiny is fair of where he is. But I thought this was a well put together match, and whatever shortcuts you need, that is what you go with. And they had a gift here, being in a guy's hometown, and the fact that Randy lost, I didn't think he was hurt really in this, and we'll probably get a third title match out of this.
Exactly.
What else on this show can we discuss? We have the tag title match involving the Usos and the New Day. Again, this was a really strong match and kind of a terrible finish.
I didn't like it. I mean, I hate to use the term lazy booking because I don't think it was. I honestly don't think it was lazy booking. It was kind of. It almost felt like, okay, this is the outcome we want. We want the Usos to retain the titles. We want to have another match with the New Day. How do we get to it? Let's come up with this. Screw it. Do that. I don't want to say it's lazy, but it's like convenient booking. Let's say, we can get away with a count out. That works. Can we do a DQ? Yeah, we could, but save the DQ for the next one. We'll do the count out first. I don't know. It was one of those deals like the ladies' Money in the Bank match where the body of the match was really good and the finish kind of took away from that. And because the last thing you remember in a match is the finish. And in this case, that's not good.
Yeah. The positive of this is you do want to see this continue. I mean, I wasn't all enamored with this feud to begin with, but it was there. It was fine. They had a really good match, and I think you do want to see the rematch out of these two.
Absolutely.
And unlike the Dean Ambrose Miz example we had at Extreme Rules, this is the kind of feud where it's the heels that are trying to get out of the match. That if you are to build to something where the titles can change on a DQ or count out, it makes logical sense because the heels are in that role. Right. And I think that fits a lot better than when it's the other way around and it's the babyface who's got to have his hands tied behind his back.
Exactly. The KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah.
Naomi and Lana. Jimmy, your thoughts?
You know what? Not that bad. I mean, like, given Lana's limitations, I don't think her offense was terrible. There was
her
one selling needs a little bit of improvement. She needs to work on that, but
there was one move where I don't know if it was a knee bar that she was going for, but she needs to just go on YouTube and watch like some Gracie tapes or something like that. Watch some of the Gracie breakdowns because like she was just pulling on this knee and it looked like the most ridiculous thing in the world. At the end of this, I didn't know what the point was to rush to this match unless you were doing the title change and putting all this heat on Lana. Instead, she lost a clean match, and I don't really get any kind of a direction for her after this. We'll see where they go, but I mean, this just felt like something to get Naomi on the show at the expense of a character that they had been building up for quite a while. And now we've given away kind of the ultimate peak with her going for the title. Right. And I guess we could continue this feud, but I don't know why. You better give us a reason for it. And this match didn't give me a reason for it.
No, the match absolutely didn't. And now, and the tease again has begun with the cash in of Money in the Bank. I know with the Money in the Bank from Carmella, I know people were assuming that maybe she would cash in and then that would negate whatever was going to happen Tuesday night, but I guess not. So I don't know. It was there.
All I can say is I think this put into perspective the reason why. Could you have imagined Lana in that ladder match? Like, that would not have been safe.
No.
Like, that would have just been crazy.
No. It's kind of like, I'll do this comparison. I know it's way off the board, but anyways, it's kind of like when you're playing hockey. I'm competent on the ice. I can actually skate a little bit, but if I were to play against legit, like, really talented hockey players who are like NHL quality hockey players, which I have before on the ice, I almost get in their way because they expect me to react like a hockey player, but I'm not a hockey player. So instead, I kind of like flummox what they do, and maybe that's what Lana would have done in this match.
Rounding out the show, Breezango beat the Ascension, and we had the Hype Bros beat the Clones. Pretty standard.
Oh my goodness!
Matches. Not much to say.
I almost felt bad for my tweet last night when it was revealed that the Ascension were the ones to take out.
Yeah, they were the stick figures.
Yeah, so man, it's like the crowd went absolutely comatose. I'm sorry. If you're going to make a surprise, make it at least a bit of a surprise. Someone that we haven't seen yet. Maybe somebody we were hoping would return. Maybe there's a tag team out there that's very good. That's just sitting there absolutely doing nothing right now on the Smackdown brand called the American Alpha. I almost want to see them turn heel right now and just be
you just want to see them. Period. They've just gone into oblivion on that show. It's been unfortunate.
Have them come out and say, like, we're tired of sitting on the sidelines. We're going to take the bull by the horns.
The un-American Alpha. They turn their backs on their country.
Oh yeah, kind of like Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, there you have it. They could have used him on Sunday night.
Yeah, there you go.
The final thing on this show was the debut of Mike and Maria Kanellis. So we had the heat of a man taking a woman's last name, which I don't know, is that really heat generating in 2017? I guess it was, because many people were like, oh my God.
Apparently, I guess it is. I mean, like, here we are for the women's revolution, and all of a sudden
you can't be so upset about the women's ladder match and equally disgusted at this guy taking the woman's last name. It's like there's got to be some middle ground on that.
Exactly. Exactly. So I kind of find it actually interesting that it's going in that direction. I kind of like it, actually. I want to see where this goes now, and both are very talented. So Mike Bennett is very underrated.
I think not enough is said about Maria Kanellis and how she was let go. I think it was early 2010, if I'm not mistaken. And she left that company, and she put out a music album. She was doing at one part, she was on Access TV. Then I think it was still HDTV,
right,
where she was just doing like interviews at MMA cards, like backstage interviews and stuff. And then went to Ring of Honor, reinvented herself, got to New Japan with Mike Bennett, then TNA, where I would argue in 2016 she was one of the featured performers every week, one of the featured performers. And here she is, she comes back a totally different performer from 2010. And I think she could be a tremendous non-wrestler on the show. I don't really want to see her as a wrestler and just another woman in the division, because she's a great talker, a great personality that they have.
Yeah, wrestling is not her strong suit, and again, play to people's strengths. And I think that sounds like the direction they're going. She may have the occasional kind of like the way Maurice is now with The Miz. She's more of a part of the package as opposed to someone who's going to compete in the ring very often, and also very underrated. I loved her work in Ring of Honor. I loved watching her progression in Ring of Honor and her improving and getting better almost week by week, and a big benefit to the WWE right now.
Yeah, so if there's a minor criticism, I just felt it was almost an afterthought by the end of the show, and if you are so concerned with television, I would have just done a tease on Sunday coming this Tuesday and build to something on TV, because I think this could have just been done on television and been maybe, because I just thought at the end of the show, I think people almost forgot about this unannounced debut. But nonetheless, I'm sure they're going to have a presence on this week's show.
But then again, you look at the business model as it is now, the WWE Network, these pay-per-views many times come off more like a Saturday night's main event than they do pay-per-view. So
yeah. So I mean, I felt this was, a thumbs in the middle, slightly going up show, and that's mainly based on that main event, which I thought was a really incredible main event. And when I get a solid main event like that, I have a hard time harping on the show. But there was definitely booking issues on this show. I think that's really fair for the undercard.
Absolutely fair. But by the same token, for the most part, I was entertained, and that's. I try not to let the actual finishes and bookings of stuff affect the rest of the match, but it does sometimes.
So now we've got the countdown to SummerSlam, which includes 2 more pay-per-view events. Jimmy, we've got Great Balls of Fire, and then the Forgotten Battleground show, which is a Smackdown show. I think it's July 23rd, I want to say.
Yes, it is, because that's my wife's birthday. Oh, boy.
Oh, well... If you go to watch that show, it will be a battleground in the Korderas household.
Absolutely. Casa Korderas will become...
So you get an out on that show, for sure. You're going to miss a possible Randy Orton, Jinder Mahal rematch.
Well, I could watch the replay. It's fine.
Well, that is going to wrap it up for us, everybody. You can, of course, follow him at Jimmy Korderas. We are at Law Radio, and go to liveaudiowrestling.com for all our latest news and shows, and we'll speak with you next month ahead of Great Balls of Fire.